Imagine yourself settling into a quiet evening, the world around you softening as the day fades. Tonight, we're stepping into the cobblestone streets of revolutionary France, a world of flickering lamplights, whispered fears, and the sharp clatter of change. This is not a tale of grand battles or fiery speeches, but of the ordinary lives caught in the tide of upheaval, where every step could lead to salvation or suspicion. Let the rhythm of history carry you gently, as we wander through the lives of cobblers, the rise and fall of a revolutionary leader, the mystery of a lost prince, and the whispered intrigues of the elite. Close your eyes, if you wish, and let the steady hum of the past guide you toward rest. Our journey begins in the workshops of Paris, where the air is thick with the scent of leather and the weight of revolution. Here, in the shadow of the guillotine, a cobbler's hammer strikes not just nails, but the delicate balance between survival and betrayal. Picture a narrow street in Paris, 1793. The air hums with the distant roar of crowds, the creak of cartwheels, and the faint, acrid tang of smoke that seems to linger everywhere. You're standing in a small workshop, its wooden floor worn smooth by years of pacing feet. Shelves are lined with tools, awls, hammers, and curved needles, while the scent of tanned leather and wax fills the space. This is the world of a French revolutionary cobbler, a trade as old as the city itself, yet now tangled in the chaos of a nation tearing itself apart. Being a cobbler in these years was not just a craft. It was a tightrope walk between loyalty and suspicion. Every day, you rose before dawn, your hands already calloused from years of stitching soles and shaping heels. The work was methodical, repetitive, a rhythm of cutting leather, pounding nails, and polishing boots until they gleamed. A single pair of shoes could take days to craft, each stitch a testament to your skill. You work by the light of a single candle, its flame flickering as shouts echoed from the street outside. The marketplace, once alive with banter and barter, now buzzed with whispers of betrayal. Neighbors denounced neighbors, and a careless word could summon the Committee of Public Safety to your door. The revolution had transformed everything, even the humble cobbler's trade. Shoes were no longer just shoes. They were symbols. The wealthy, once your best customers, had fled or faced the guillotine, their velvet slippers replaced by the sturdy boots of sans-culottes, the working-class revolutionaries who wore their plain attire as a badge of patriotism. You learned to make these boots quickly, cheaply, using rough leather that chafed your hands. The demand was endless, as armies marched and citizens rallied. But every boot you made was a choice. Make them too fine, and you risked being labeled a royalist sympathizer. Make them too shoddy, and you might be accused of sabotaging the Republic's cause. The slogans of the revolution were everywhere, scrawled on walls, shouted in taverns. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. You might have muttered them yourself, if only to blend in. But speaking too loudly could mark you as a fanatic, while silence could brand you a traitor. In your workshop, you kept your head down, your hammer striking in time with the pulse of the city. Customers came and went. Some were friends, others strangers with eyes that lingered too long. A man might ask for a pair of boots, then lean in to whisper, "Have you heard of the latest arrests?" You nodded, said little, and returned to your work, the weight of his words settling like dust. Survival meant navigating a web of paranoia. The Committee of Public Safety, led by men like Robespierre, saw enemies everywhere. A cobbler's shop was no sanctuary. Your tools could be deemed weapons, your leather hoarded goods, your conversations treason. Some cobblers joined revolutionary clubs, swearing allegiance to the Republic to prove their loyalty. Others hid royalist pamphlets under floorboards, hoping to escape notice. Every choice carried risk. A single denouncement, a neighbor's grudge, a customer's suspicion, could lead to a knock at midnight, a trial without mercy, and the cold finality of the guillotine's blade. Yet life continued, as it always does. You ate simple meals, bread, perhaps a thin soup, shared with your family in the dim light of your workshop's back room. The streets outside were a theater of contrasts, the vibrant tricolor flags against the gray of hunger, the songs of revolution mingling with the cries of those led to the scaffold. You worked, you listened, you survived. The rhythm of your hammer became a kind of prayer, a steady beat to drown out the chaos. Each finished pair of shoes was a small victory, a step forward in a world where the ground itself seemed to shift. As the revolution churned on, the cobbler's life was a microcosm of the era's contradictions. You were essential, yet invisible, skilled, yet vulnerable. Your hands shaped the boots that marched for liberty, but your heart knew the cost of misstepping. The guillotine's shadow loomed large, and every day was a quiet act of endurance. Now, let the cobbler's workshop fade gently from your mind. Imagine yourself stepping out into the streets of Paris, where the air carries the faint buzz of anticipation and dread. The year is still 1793, and the revolution is at its fevered height. Among the voices calling for change, one rises above the rest, a man whose words shaped the Republic and whose fate would mirror its turmoil. His name is Maximilien Robespierre, and his journey from idealist to architect of terror to a figure silenced by the very revolution he championed is a story of ambition, conviction, and the fragility of power. Settle in, and let the steady rhythm of his life unfold, like pages turning softly in the quiet of the night. Picture a young Robespierre, not yet the feared figure of the revolution, but a lawyer in the northern town of Arras, the son of a struggling attorney. He grew up in a world of modest means, his childhood marked by the absence of his mother and the eventual disappearance of his father. Orphaned young, he was raised by relatives, his sharp mind nurtured by scholarships and study. At the College Louis-le-Grand in Paris, he absorbed the ideas of Rousseau and Montesquieu, their words planting seeds of justice and equality in his heart. You can imagine him, a slight figure with a serious gaze, poring over books by candlelight, dreaming of a world remade by reason. By 1789, as the Estates General convened, Robespierre was a delegate, his voice clear but unassuming. He spoke of liberty, of the rights of the common man, his words measured yet fervent. In the early days of the Revolution, he was one of many, a man in a plain coat among the flamboyant nobles and fiery orators. But his persistence set him apart. In the Jacobin Club, a gathering place for revolutionary thinkers, he honed his ideas, his speeches growing sharper, his vision clearer. He called for universal suffrage, an end to slavery, and a society where virtue, not wealth, defined worth. To those who listened, his sincerity was undeniable, his arguments like the steady drip of water carving stone. As the revolution deepened, so did its dangers. The monarchy fell, the king faced trial, and Robespierre's role grew. By 1793, he was a leading figure in the Committee of Public Safety, a body tasked with defending the Republic against enemies within and without. Imagine the weight of that responsibility. A nation at war, its borders threatened by foreign armies, its streets roiling with factionalism. Robespierre saw enemies everywhere, royalists plotting in shadows, moderates weakening the cause, radicals pushing too far. His solution was the Reign of Terror, a period where the guillotine became the Republic's swift and merciless judge. In the committee's chambers, Robespierre worked late into the night, his desk littered with reports of conspiracies and betrayals. He believed in a republic of virtue, where citizens lived for the common good, but achieving it meant purging those who stood in the way. Trials were swift, sentences final. The scaffold claimed thousands, nobles, priests, even fellow revolutionaries. To Robespierre, each execution was a step toward purity, a necessary sacrifice. Yet to others, he was becoming something else, a man consumed by his own ideals, his moral compass warped by power. You might picture him, pale and composed, standing before a crowd, his voice steady as he justified the bloodshed, never raising it to a shout, always calm, always certain. But certainty breeds enemies. By 1794, Robespierre's allies began to turn. The terror had grown too vast, its blade too indiscriminate. Moderates feared his zeal, radicals resented his control. Whispers of his own ambition, of a dictatorship cloaked in virtue, spread through Paris. In the National Convention, where he once held sway, his speeches met resistance. You can imagine the tension in those halls, the air thick with unspoken accusations, as men who once cheered him now avoided his gaze. His health faltered, his absences grew, and his isolation deepened. The end came swiftly. On the 9th of Thermidor, July 27th, 1794, Robespierre rose to speak, warning of new conspiracies. But the convention turned against him. Shouts drowned his voice. Accusations of tyranny filled the air. Arrested that night, he was taken to the same prisons he had filled. The next day, wounded from a scuffle or perhaps his own hand, he faced the guillotine. No trial was needed. The terror's architect became its final victim. As the blade fell, the crowd's roar was both a cheer and a sigh, the sound of a chapter closing. Robespierre, once the voice of the revolution, was now a memory, his ideals buried beneath the weight of their cost. His rise and fall were a mirror of the revolution itself, born of hope, consumed by fear, and ended in blood. As you drift through this story, imagine the quiet that followed, the city exhaling as the terror waned, its people weary but enduring, their lives forever marked by the man who sought to save them and, in doing so, lost himself. Let the clamor of the guillotine fade now, as we step away from the crowded streets of Paris and into the shadowed corridors of a prison. The year is 1795, and the revolution's fervor has left behind a trail of questions, none more haunting than the fate of a young boy known as the Dauphin, Louis Charles, the child who would have been King Louis XVII. His story is not one of battles or speeches, but of whispers, rumors, and a mystery that lingers like mist over the Seine. Settle into this quiet enigma, and let the uncertainty of his fate carry you gently, like a boat drifting on calm waters. Picture the Temple prison, a grim fortress in the heart of Paris. Its stone walls, damp and cold, hold the remnants of a fallen monarchy. Here, in 1793, a boy of 8 years is confined, his world reduced to a small cell with a single window, through which he might glimpse the sky. Louis Charles, second son of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, was once a prince, dressed in fine silks, his laughter echoing through Versailles. But the revolution stripped away his titles, leaving him simply Citizen Capet, a symbol of a regime the Republic sought to erase. As you imagine him, see a child with pale cheeks and wide eyes, clutching a worn toy, his days marked by the creak of a guard's boots and the distant shouts of the city. The Dauphin's story begins with loss. His father, the king, met the guillotine in January 1793. His mother followed in October. Separated from his family, Louis Charles was placed under the care of Antoine Simon, a cobbler turned revolutionary, whose task was to re-educate the boy. Simon was not cruel by the standards of the time, but his methods were harsh. The young prince was taught to curse his royal heritage, to sing revolutionary songs, and to forget the world of palaces. You might picture him, small and bewildered, repeating words he barely understood, his voice soft against the stone walls. The air in his cell was heavy with the musty scent of mold, the only warmth coming from a thin blanket that barely kept out the chill. By 1794, Simon was gone, dismissed from his post, and the boy's conditions worsened. Alone for hours, sometimes days, Louis Charles was left with little food or care. Guards reported a child grown silent, his health fading, his spirit dimmed by isolation. The revolution, consumed by its own chaos, paid little attention to the boy it had once paraded as a trophy. In June 1795, official records state that Louis Charles, aged 10, died in the Temple prison, his body weakened by illness, perhaps tuberculosis or neglect. A doctor's report described a frail figure, his life extinguished quietly, like a candle snuffed out in the dark. The Republic buried him without ceremony, closing the chapter on the last Capet heir. But here, the story frays into mystery. Rumors began to swirl, even before the boy's death was announced. Some whispered that the child in the temple was not the true Dauphin, that a substitute had been placed in his cell while the real Louis Charles was spirited away. Others claimed he survived, hidden by royalist sympathizers who dreamed of restoring the monarchy. Across France and later Europe, men emerged claiming to be the lost prince, each with a story, each with supporters eager to believe. You can imagine the hope and skepticism these claims sparked. A tavern conversation here, a secret letter there, all feeding a legend that refused to die. One claimant, a man named Karl Wilhelm Naundorf, appeared in the 1830s, his tale compelling enough to convince some former courtiers of Versailles. He spoke of a daring escape, of loyalists who smuggled him from the temple, of a life in hiding. His manners, his memories, even his resemblance to the Bourbon line, lent weight to his story. Yet others dismissed him as a fraud, pointing to inconsistencies and the convenience of his claims. Dozens of others followed, some clearly impostors, others shrouded in enough ambiguity to keep the mystery alive. Courts debated, pamphlets circulated, and the question lingered. Had the Dauphin truly died, or had he slipped through the revolution's grasp? Modern science has tried to settle the matter. In 2000, DNA tests on a preserved heart, believed to be Louis Charles's, suggested it matched the Habsburg lineage of Marie Antoinette. Yet even this did not silence all doubts. The heart's journey, cut from the boy's body, passed through hands, stored in jars, left room for questions. The mystery endures not because of evidence, but because of what it represents. A flicker of hope in a time of relentless loss, a story that refuses to be pinned down. As you linger in this tale, imagine the temple's quiet cell, the boy who might have been king, and the whispers that carried his name beyond the prison walls. The truth, like the child himself, remains just out of reach, a shadow in the soft light of history. Now, let the stone walls of the temple prison fade, and picture yourself stepping into a different world, a Paris of candlelit rooms and hushed conversations, where the air carries the scent of rose water and ink. It is the late 1780s, before the Revolution's full fury, when the French elite gathered in salons and secret societies to debate ideas that would reshape a nation. These were spaces of philosophy, intrigue, and masked intentions, where the powerful and the intellectual wove the threads of change. Settle into this world of soft whispers and grand ideals, and let the rhythm of their lives guide you gently toward rest. Imagine a Parisian salon, its walls adorned with gilded mirrors and tapestries, the floor polished to a gleam. The room is warm with the glow of chandeliers, their light catching the silk of dresses and the glint of wine glasses. Here, in the home of a wealthy hostess, nobles, philosophers, and artists gather to discuss the world. The air is alive with the clink of porcelain cups, the rustle of paper as someone reads aloud, and the murmur of voices debating liberty, reason, and reform. You might picture yourself standing quietly in a corner, unnoticed, as the conversation flows like a slow river, carrying ideas that will soon spill into the streets. Salons with a heartbeat of Enlightenment France, places where men and women of influence tested new ideas. Hostesses like Madame Geoffrin or Madame Roland shaped these gatherings, inviting thinkers like Voltaire or Diderot to share their writings. The talk was not just of philosophy but of politics, taxation, the king's failures, the growing unrest among the poor. Yet the tone remained refined, almost playful, as if the stakes were merely intellectual. You can imagine a nobleman in a powdered wig, his voice measured as he critiques the monarchy, while a writer sips coffee and counters with a quote from Rousseau. The scent of wax and perfume lingers, a contrast to the hunger beyond the salon's doors. But not all conversations were so open. Beneath the elegance, secret societies flourished, hidden gatherings where the elite plotted in earnest. The Freemasons, with their rituals and symbols, drew nobles and merchants alike. In lodges tucked away in private homes or discreet taverns, members swore oaths of secrecy, their meetings cloaked in candlelight and code. These societies spoke of equality and brotherhood, ideas that clashed with the rigid hierarchy of the old regime. You might envision a room heavy with tobacco smoke, men in dark coats leaning close, their voices low as they discuss reform or revolution. The creak of a floorboard could silence them, a reminder of the spies who lurked even among allies. Other groups, like the Society of the Friends of the Constitution, later known as the Jacobins, began as intellectual clubs, but grew more radical. Here, men like Robespierre first found their voice, their words sharpening with each meeting. These societies were not just for the elite. They drew ambitious men from humbler backgrounds, lawyers and clerks who saw opportunity in the cracks of a crumbling system. The air in these gatherings was charged, not with violence, but with possibility, a sense that the world could be remade. Yet the cost of such ideas was rarely spoken aloud, as if to name it might summon the chaos to come. The salons and societies were a world apart from the cobbler's workshop, Yet they were not untouched by the struggles of the streets. The elite debated reform while their servants carried whispers of discontent back to the markets. Some saloniers, aware of the growing unrest, used their influence to quietly fund pamphlets or shelter reformers. Others, loyal to the crown, played a dangerous game, hosting royalists and revolutionaries in the same room, their smiles masking their true allegiances. You can picture a masked ball, a common event among the elite, where identities were hidden, and a whispered word could be a pledge or a betrayal. As the revolution neared, these spaces became battlegrounds of ideas. The salons grew tense, their conversations edged with urgency. Secret societies moved from debate to action, their members drafting manifestos or plotting in shadowed corners. The elite, once insulated by wealth, found themselves caught in the tide they helped create. Some fled as the Bastille fell. Others stayed, their voices drowned by the roar of the crowd. The elegance of the salon gave way to the starkness of the guillotine, the secrecy of the lodge to the public trials of the terror. Yet in those final years before the storm, the salons and societies were a world of their own, a place of ideas, ambition, and fragile hope. As you linger here, imagine the soft clink of glasses, the rustle of silk, the weight of words that could topple a kingdom. These were the spaces where the revolution was born, not in fire, but in the quiet cadence of thought. As the candlelight of the salons dims, let your mind drift back over the journey we've taken, from the cobbler's workshop, where every hammer strike was a dance with survival, to the rise and fall of Robespierre, whose ideals burned bright then crumbled, from the shadowed cell of the lost dauphin, whose fate remains a whisper, to the elegant salons where ideas sparked a revolution. The French Revolution was a world of contrasts, hope and fear, elegance and struggle, voices raised and silenced. Its rhythm was relentless, yet now, as you rest, it fades into the quiet of the present. Picture yourself now, far from the cobblestone streets and guillotine shadow, in a world where the air is soft, the night calm. The past is a story, its weight lifted, its lessons carried gently in your thoughts. Let the steady pulse of history ease you, like a lullaby, toward sleep. The struggles of revolutionary France are distant now, but their echoes remind us of the resilience of those who lived them. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the world slip away, leaving only the comfort of rest. Close your eyes, if you wish, and let the world around you soften. Tonight, we're journeying to the Andes, where rugged peaks pierce the sky and the air hums with the weight of an ancient empire. This is the world of the Inca, a civilization of stone cities and golden treasures, but also of toil and sacrifice. Our story unfolds along the winding trails of their vast road system, through the lives of porters, a fallen emperor, sacred ruins, and the nobility who ruled from the clouds. Let the rhythm of their lives carry you gently, like a breeze across the mountains, toward a place of calm and rest. We begin on a narrow path, high above the valleys, where the air is thin and the burdens are heavy. This is the life of an Inca porter, whose every step was a testament to endurance in the service of an empire. Imagine yourself standing on a stone-paved trail, the Andes rising around you like silent giants. It's the early 1500s, and the Inca Empire stretches across mountains and valleys, its roads binding a realm larger than any in the Americas. The air is sharp, thin, carrying the scent of damp earth and wild grasses. You are a chasqui, a porter, one of countless men tasked with carrying the empire's burdens, food, cloth, gold, messages, across the royal highways. Your back bends under a woven pack, heavy with goods, as you tread a path worn smooth by generations. The Inca road system was a marvel, a network of over 40,000 kilometers weaving through cliffs, forests, and deserts. Stone steps climbed dizzying slopes. Rope bridges swayed over rushing rivers. These paths, built with precision, carried armies, traders, and runners who relayed messages faster than the wind. But for you, the porter, they were a grueling lifeline. Your day began before dawn, the chill of the mountain air biting your skin through a simple tunic of alpaca wool. You chewed coca leaves to dull hunger and fatigue, their bitter taste a constant companion as you set out, your sandals slapping against stone. Each load you carried was a demand of the empire. Packs could weigh as much as a grown man, stuffed with maize, potatoes, or precious metals for the emperor's court. The trails offered little mercy. Steep ascents that burned your lungs, descents that jarred your knees. The thin air at 4,000 meters made every breath a labor, your chest heaving as you climbed. Rest stops, called tambos, were scattered along the routes, offering shelter and quinoa stew, but they were often hours apart. You paused only briefly, your body aching, the weight of your pack pressing against your shoulders like a stone. The Empire's demands were relentless. As a porter, you were part of the MITA system, a labor tax that required communities to send men for public works. Refusal was not an option. The Inca state was built on obedience, its inspectors ensuring every village met its quota. You might have been a farmer, a weaver, or a fisherman in your home village, but when called, you became a porter, leaving family behind for weeks or months. The rhythm of your life was set by the Empire's needs. Carry this, deliver that, return for more. Failure could mean punishment, though the Inca preferred efficiency over cruelty. A delayed delivery might bring a reprimand, but persistent failure could mark you as disloyal. The dangers of the road were ever present. A misstep on a narrow ledge could send you tumbling into a ravine, your load scattered among the rocks. Rain turned paths to mud. Cold nights left you shivering under a thin blanket. Bandits were rare, the Inca's grip was tight, but illness was a constant shadow. Sickness spread in crowded tambos, and exhaustion weakened even the strongest. Some porters fell, their strength spent, their lives fading quietly into the mountains. Yet the Empire moved on, its roads pulsing with the steps of those who followed. Despite the hardship, there was a strange rhythm to the work, a cadence that bound you to the land. You knew the trails, the curve of a valley, the shadow of a peak, as well as you knew your own hands. You shared stories with other porters, your voices low as you rested by a fire, the crackle of wood blending with the howl of the wind. You carried not just goods, but the Empire itself, its wealth, and its will flowing through your labor. In the quiet moments, you might have looked out over the Andes, their peaks glowing in the dawn, and felt a fleeting pride in your role, even as your body ached. The life of a porter was a constant struggle, yet it was woven into the fabric of the Inca world. Each step you took was a thread in a vast tapestry, connecting villages to cities, mountains to coasts. The Empire's glory rested on your shoulders, but so did its weight, a burden carried in silence, step after step, along the endless roads. Let the winding trails of the Andes fade gently from your mind now, and imagine yourself in a golden city, high in the mountains, where the sun glints off stone palaces and the air hums with the weight of an empire on the brink. It is 1532, and the Inca world is ruled by Atahualpa, a prince whose rise to power was forged in civil war and whose fall would mark the end of an era. His story is one of ambition, triumph, and a collision with forces beyond his control. Settle into the rhythm of his life, like the steady beat of a drum echoing across the valleys, and let it carry you softly forward. Picture Atahualpa in Cajamarca, a city of stone and ceremony, his presence commanding even in the simplicity of his attire. He was not born to rule. He was the son of Huayna Capac, the great Inca emperor, but one of many heirs in a sprawling royal family. The Inca had no fixed rules of succession, and when Huayna Capac died in 1527, likely from smallpox brought by distant European sails, the empire split between two brothers, Huascar, who ruled from the capital of Cusco, and Atahualpa, who held the northern stronghold of Quito. You can imagine Atahualpa, his gaze sharp, his frame sturdy from years in the rugged north, standing before his loyal generals, their loyalty bound by years of shared campaigns. The civil war that followed was a quiet storm, its battles fought in mountain passes and high plateaus. Atahualpa's forces, hardened by life in Quito's rugged terrain, moved with precision. They marched along the same roads you walked as a porter, their sandals pounding the stone as they carried spears and woven shields. Atahualpa was no mere warrior. He was a strategist, his mind as sharp as the obsidian blades his men wielded. He sent emissaries to sway Huascar's allies, offering gifts of gold and promises of power. You might picture him in a war council, his voice low but firm, planning ambushes in narrow valleys, where his enemies faltered. By 1532, Atahualpa's victories had brought him to Cajamarca, where he captured Huascar and claimed the title of Sapa Inca, the sole ruler. His triumph was marked not by fanfare but by ceremony, offerings to the sun god Inti, feasts of maize and chicha, the fermented drink shared among his followers. The air was thick with the scent of roasted guinea pig and burning incense, the city alive with the hum of victory. Atahualpa wore the imperial fringe, a woven band across his forehead, its weight a reminder of his new burden. Yet even in triumph, he was cautious, aware of the fragile loyalty of a divided empire. Then came the strangers. In November 1532, Francisco Pizarro and his small band of Spanish conquistadors arrived in Cajamarca, their armor glinting under the Andean sun. Atahualpa, curious but confident, agreed to meet them in the city's plaza. Imagine the scene. Atahualpa borne on a litter adorned with gold and feathers, surrounded by thousands of his warriors, their silence a show of strength. The Spanish, fewer than 200, carried steel and horses, creatures alien to the Inca world. A priest stepped forward, offering a Bible and words of a foreign god. Atahualpa, puzzled, held the book to his ear, then cast it to the ground when it spoke no truths he recognized. What followed was a moment that changed the world. The Spanish, seizing the signal, attacked. Cannons roared, horses charged, and steel cut through the unarmed crowd. The plaza, once a place of ceremony, became a tableau of chaos, lives lost in the shadow of stone walls. Atahualpa was taken captive, his warriors scattered. You can imagine his shock, not at the violence, but at the betrayal of a meeting meant for peace. Confined in a stone room, he learned of the Spanish hunger for gold. He offered a ransom, rooms filled with treasure, gold and silver stripped from temples and palaces. Porters like you carried these riches, their packs heavier than ever, their steps echoing with the empire's wealth. For months, Atahualpa remained a prisoner, his mind still sharp, his hope tethered to diplomacy. He learned Spanish ways, played chess with his captors, and sent orders to keep his empire intact. But the Spanish, driven by greed and fear of rebellion, grew restless. In July 1533, they accused Atahualpa of plotting against them. A hasty trial, conducted in a language he barely understood, ended with a sentence of death. On a quiet evening, he was led to the plaza, offered baptism to avoid burning, and then, with a rope around his neck, his life was ended. The empire he had fought to unify stood on the edge of collapse, its heart torn out in a single moment. Atahualpa's fall was not just the loss of a man, but the unraveling of a world. The Inca would resist for years, but the Spanish tide was relentless. As you drift through his story, imagine the quiet of that final night, the stars above Cajamarca, and the weight of an empire passing into shadow. Now, let the plaza of Cajamarca slip away, and imagine yourself standing on a misty ridge, high in the Andes, where stone walls rise from the clouds. It is the early 1500s, and you are at Machu Picchu, the Inca's sacred city, a place of mystery woven into the mountains. Its terraces cling to steep slopes, its temples align with the stars, and its secrets remain half-buried, even centuries later. This is not a tale of conquest, but of the quiet wonders and puzzles hidden in its stones. Let the rhythm of this ancient place guide you, like a soft wind through the peaks, toward a place of calm. Picture Machu Picchu at dawn, the air cool and damp, carrying the scent of wet stone and wild orchids. The city is a marvel of engineering, its granite blocks cut, so precisely they fit without mortar, their surfaces smooth under your fingertips. Terraces cascade down the hillside, green with crops of maize and quinoa, tended by farmers whose voices drift softly in the morning mist. Above, temples and plazas hum with the low chants of priests, their offerings of coca leaves and chicha laid before altars to Inti, the sun god. You might imagine yourself walking its narrow paths, the stone cool beneath your feet, each step echoing the care of those who built it. Machu Picchu was likely a royal estate, perhaps a retreat for the emperor or a sacred site for rituals. Its location, hidden between two peaks, was chosen with purpose. The Inca saw the landscape as alive, its rivers and mountains sacred. The city's layout mirrors this belief, Its walls curve with the terrain. Its fountains channel water from hidden springs. You can picture the sound of that water, a gentle trickle over stone, blending with the rustle of leaves in the breeze. The city's design follows a sacred geometry. Its structures aligned with the solstices, the sun's rays piercing specific windows at dawn. To the Inca, this was a place where earth and sky met, a bridge to the divine. But beneath the visible lies the hidden. Machu Picchu's construction is a puzzle. Its stones, some weighing tons, were quarried from the mountain itself, shaped with bronze tools and brute labor. How did workers move them up cliffs without wheels? Scholars suggest rollers and ramps, but the effort remains staggering. You might envision porters like those from the roads, their backs bent under smaller loads, hauling ropes and levers, their chants keeping time as they worked. The city's water system is another marvel, channels cut into bedrock, still flowing centuries later. Their paths a testament to Inca precision. Even today, archaeologists marvel at the skill, their tools unable to fully explain the craft. The city's purpose is another mystery. Was it a sanctuary, a fortress, or a ceremonial hub? Its small size, housing perhaps a few hundred, suggests exclusivity, yet its granaries held enough food for more. Some believe it was a seasonal retreat, used when the emperor sought solitude or communion with the gods. Others see it as a pilgrimage site, its paths sacred to those who walk them. Artifacts found in the ruins, pottery, jewelry, skeletal remains, tell of a diverse population, priests, nobles, perhaps even chosen women dedicated to the sun. You can imagine their lives, their days filled with weaving, brewing, or tending altars, their nights lit by the flicker of oil lamps. Yet Machu Picchu holds darker secrets. The skeletal remains show signs of hard lives, worn joints, fractured bones, signs of malnutrition in some. Disease, perhaps smallpox from early European contact, may have touched the city even before the Spanish arrived. The Inca had no written records, so the city's final days are unclear. It was likely abandoned before the conquest, its people leaving for reasons lost to time, disease, war, or a shift in imperial needs. The jungle crept in, cloaking the stones and vines, hiding Machu Picchu from the world until its rediscovery in 1911 by Hiram Bingham. Modern puzzles persist. Archaeologists debate the city's true name. The Inca called it something else, perhaps never recorded. Its remote location raises questions. Why build so high, so hidden? Some see it as a statement of power, others a spiritual refuge. Excavations reveal new details, hidden chambers, uncharted paths, but each answer spawns more questions. You might picture the researchers, their boots crunching on the same stones you walked, piecing together a story that remains just out of reach. As you linger in Machu Picchu's shadow, imagine its quiet beauty, the mist curling around temples, the stars aligning with stone. It is a place of wonder, its secrets woven into the mountains, a testament to a people whose ingenuity endures even as their voices have faded. Let the mist-shrouded stones of Machu Picchu fade gently now, and imagine yourself in the heart of Cusco, the Inca capital, where the air is crisp and the sun bathes golden walls in light. It is the early 1500s, and the Inca nobility live in a world of privilege and precision, their lives a stark contrast to the porters who tread the empire's roads. These are the lords and ladies of the Andes, adorned in feathered robes, dwelling in palaces, and guiding a civilization from the heights. Settle into the rhythm of their lives, like the soft hum of a sacred chant, and let it carry you toward rest. Picture the city of Cusco, its streets laid out in the shape of a puma, a sacred animal to the Inca. The air carries the scent of burning wood and sweet herbs, offerings to the gods rising from stone altars. The nobility live in palaces of polished granite, their walls gleaming under the Andean sun. Each block fitted so tightly a blade of grass could not slip between them. You might imagine yourself standing at the edge of the Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun, its interior lined with gold sheets that reflect the light like a second dawn. The nobles move through these spaces with grace, their steps measured, their voices low, as if aware of the divine weight of their roles. The Inca nobility, known as the Panica, were the emperor's kin, their blood tied to the sun itself. They wore tunics of the finest vicuña wool, soft as a whisper, dyed in vibrant reds and blues from cochineal and indigo. Feathered headdresses adorned their brows, plumes of macaws and condors signaling their rank. Women, especially the Koya, the emperor's principal wife, wove intricate textiles, their looms producing patterns that told stories of the cosmos. You can picture a noblewoman, her fingers deftly threading alpaca wool, the clack of the loom blending with the murmur of a nearby fountain. Their days were structured, a balance of duty and ceremony. Mornings began with offerings to Inti, the sun god, coca leaves, maize, or the sacrifice of a llama, its life given swiftly to honor the divine. The nobles oversaw the empire's administration, meeting in courtyards to discuss harvests, taxes, or the progress of distant armies. Messengers, the Chasqui runners, arrived breathless with knotted quipus, cords that recorded numbers and messages in a language of knots. You might envision a noble deciphering these cords, his eyes tracing each twist, his decisions shaping the lives of thousands. Life among the nobility was not without labor, but it was labor of the mind and spirit. They planned cities like Machu Picchu, their layouts reflecting the stars. They supervised the MITA, ensuring porters and workers kept the empire's roads and fields alive. Banquets were common, tables laden with roasted guinea pig, potatoes, and chicha poured from silver vessels. The air at these gatherings was warm with laughter and the clink of pottery, though always tempered by the awareness of their divine responsibility. The nobles were not just rulers, they were mediators between the people and the gods. Yet their world was not untouched by struggle. The nobility faced the same thin air as the porters, their lungs adapting to life at 3,400 meters. Political rivalries simmered, succession disputes, like the one between Atahualpa and Huascar, could fracture the empire. The arrival of smallpox, carried on unseen winds from European shores, struck noble and commoner alike, leaving families grieving in silence. You can imagine a noble standing on a palace terrace, gazing at the peaks, his heart heavy with the loss of kin, yet bound to maintain the empire's strength. The nobility's lives were also shaped by ritual. They led festivals like Inti Raymi, the Feast of the Sun, where thousands gathered to dance and sing under the solstice sky. Priests, often nobles themselves, read omens in the stars or the entrails of sacrificed animals, their voices calm as they assured the people of the gods' favor. Women, especially the Aklas, chosen for their beauty and skill, served in temples or as wives to the emperor, their lives dedicated to sacred duties. The rhythm of these rituals was a constant, a heartbeat that unified the empire from its highest peaks to its deepest valleys. In contrast to the porters, the nobility lived with abundance, yet their privilege came with the weight of expectation. They were the empire's stewards, their every act a reflection of divine order. As the Spanish approached, this world of feathered robes and sun temples would face its end, but in its prime, it was a vision of harmony, its beauty carved into the mountains themselves. As the golden light of Cusco's palaces dims, let your mind drift over the Andes we've explored, from the porters, whose every step bore the empire's weight, to Atahualpa, whose rise and fall marked its twilight, from the sacred stones of Machu Picchu, hiding their secrets in the mist, to the nobility, whose lives wove ritual and power into the fabric of a civilization. The Inca world was one of endurance and splendor, of burdens carried and temples raised, its rhythm echoing through the mountains. Now, imagine yourself far from those rugged trails and golden halls, resting in the quiet of the present. The struggles of the Inca are distant, their triumphs and losses softened by time. Let the steady pulse of their story ease you, like the gentle sway of a hammock, toward sleep. The Andes stand silent now, but their echoes remind us of those who walked their paths. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the world fade, leaving only the comfort of rest. Imagine yourself settling into the quiet of the evening, the world around you softening as the day fades. Tonight, we're stepping into the bustling, fragrant alleys of Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire, where empires clashed and candles burned to light the way. This is a story of toil and splendor, of waxworkers, emperors, sacred rituals, and nobles draped in silk. Let the rhythm of their lives guide you gently. like the flicker of a flame in a darkened room, toward a place of calm and rest. We begin in a cramped workshop, where the air is heavy with the scent of tallow and wax, and the glow of candles illuminates a city that never truly sleeps. This is the world of the Byzantine candle maker, where every flame tells a story of labor and endurance. Picture yourself in a narrow street in Constantinople, the year 550 CE. The air is thick with the hum of the city, merchants calling, cartwheels creaking, and the distant chant of monks. You stand in a small workshop, its walls stained with soot, the floor slick with spilled fat. The scent of animal tallow, pungent and greasy, clings to your clothes, mingling with the sweeter note of beeswax. You are a candle maker, one of many whose labor lights the churches, homes, and palaces of the Byzantine Empire. Your work is essential, but it is far from glamorous, a constant struggle against heat, filth, and the demands of a city that reveres light. Your day begins at dawn, when the city stirs. You rise in a small room above the workshop, the air already warm with the day's heat. Breakfast is simple bread, olives, perhaps a sip of watered wine, eaten quickly before you descend to your workbench. The tools are modest, a cauldron for melting fat, molds of clay or metal, wicks of twisted flax. The process is as old as the city itself, but it is grueling. You start with tallow, rendered from sheep or cattle fat, delivered in barrels that leave a greasy sheen on your hands. The fat must be boiled, skimmed of impurities, and poured into molds, each step filling the air with a heavy, sour smell that seeps into your skin. Beeswax, prized for its clean burn and honeyed scent, is a luxury reserved for churches and the wealthy. When you work with it, the process is gentler, the wax melting smoothly, its warmth pleasant under your fingers. But tallow is your mainstay, its odor a constant companion. You stir the cauldron with a wooden paddle, the heat of the fire prickling your face, your arms aching from the weight of the pot. Spills are common, and burns are a daily risk. Red welts mark your hands, a testament to the craft's demands. The wicks, dipped by hand or set in molds, must be precise. A poorly made candle flickers weakly or gutters, drawing complaints from customers. The workshop is a world of contrasts. The glow of finished candles, lined up like soldiers, casts a soft light, but the space is cramped, the air stifling. You sweep away wax drippings and fat scraps, but the floor remains sticky, attracting flies that buzz in the heat. Outside, the city pulses. Merchants haggle in the markets. Priests process to Hagia Sophia. Nobles pass in litters draped with silk. Your candles light their worlds, from the dim glow in a tavern to the blazing chandeliers of a palace. Yet your life is bound to the workshop, your hands always moving, shaping light from the mess of raw materials. The Byzantine Empire runs on ritual, and candles are its lifeblood. Churches demand thousands for services, each flame a prayer to the divine. You deliver bundles to monasteries, navigating crowded streets, where the scent of incense mingles with the tang of fish from the docks. The work is steady but relentless. Orders come from priests, innkeepers, even the imperial court. A mistake, like a batch of smoky tallow candles, could cost you a client, or worse, mark you as careless in a city where reputation matters. You learn to judge wax by its texture, to trim wicks with precision, to endure the long hours that leave your back stooped and your eyes heavy. Life as a candle maker is not without its quiet moments. In the evening, as the city quiets, you might sit by a single candle, its flame steady, and feel a fleeting pride in your craft. The light you create touches every corner of Constantinople, from the humblest home to the grandest cathedral. But the work is a constant struggle, its filth and heat a reminder of the labor behind the empire's glow. You wash your hands, but the scent of tallow lingers, a mark of the life you lead in the service of light. Let the candle maker's workshop, with its heavy air and flickering flames, fade gently now. Imagine yourself stepping into the grand halls of Constantinople's imperial palace, where marble gleams under torchlight and the scent of myrrh lingers. It is the 6th century, and the Byzantine Empire is at its zenith under Justinian and Theodora, a couple whose ambition and partnership shaped an era. Their story is one of riots, reforms, and a city tested by calamity, all woven into the rhythm of an empire that bridged worlds. Settle into this tale, like the soft glow of a candle in a quiet room, and let it carry you forward. Picture Justinian, a man of unassuming origins, born to a peasant family in the Balkans, yet destined to rule. His uncle, Emperor Justin, rose from soldier to sovereign, and Justinian, sharp-minded and studious, followed in his shadow. By 527, he was emperor, his frame slight, but his vision vast. You can imagine him in the palace, poring over scrolls by lamplight, his fingers tracing laws that would reshape the empire. His dream was to restore Rome's glory, uniting East and West under one Christian banner. His determination was quiet but relentless, his voice steady as he issued decrees to generals and scholars alike. Beside him stood Theodora, his equal in will if not in title. Born to a bearkeeper in the Hippodrome, her early life was one of survival, dancing and acting on Constantinople stages, her wit and beauty her tools. By the time she met Justinian, she was a woman of experience, her past a whisper in the city's gossip. Their marriage defied convention. Justinian changed laws to wed her, elevating her to empress. You might picture her in a mosaic, her robes of purple silk, her eyes sharp with intelligence, standing beside Justinian in Hagia Sophia. Her influence was profound. She advised on policy, swayed appointments, and faced crises with a resolve that matched her husband's. Their reign began with promise, but soon faced fire. In 532, the Nika riots erupted in the Hippodrome, where chariot races fueled the city's passions. Factions of blues and greens, usually rivals, united against Justinian's taxes and reforms. The city burned, churches, homes, and markets reduced to ash, the air thick with smoke and shouts. Justinian wavered, ready to flee, but Theodora stood firm, her words calm yet unyielding. Purple makes a fine shroud. Her resolve steadied him. They sent troops, led by General Belisarius, to quell the riot. The Hippodrome became a place of loss, thousands falling to swords, their lives fading in the chaos. The city exhaled, but the cost lingered, a shadow over the couple's rule. Justinian's ambition shone in his works. He rebuilt Hagia Sophia, its dome a marvel that seemed to float above the city, its mosaics glowing by candlelight. He codified Roman law, the Corpus Juris Civilis, a tome that would shape legal systems for centuries. His armies reclaimed North Africa, Italy, and parts of Spain, stitching the empire's frayed edges. Yet each triumph came with strain. Taxes burdened the people, soldiers stretched thin. You can imagine the emperor in his study, maps spread before him, the weight of his dreams pressing like the marble above. Then came the plague, a shadow that swept through Constantinople in 542. Carried by trade ships, the disease spread through crowded streets, leaving homes empty and markets silent. The air grew heavy with the scent of decay, though carts carried the fallen away before dawn. Justinian himself fell ill but recovered, his survival a flicker of hope. Theodora, ever practical, organized relief, ensuring food reached the living. The plague passed, but it left the empire weaker, its population diminished, its coffers strained. The rhythm of life slowed, yet the city endured, its churches lit by the candles of the faithful. Theodora died in 548, her passing a quiet blow to Justinian. He ruled for decades more, his energy fading, his empire fraying under invasions and costs. By his death in 565, the Byzantine world was vast but fragile, its glory a memory preserved in stone and law. Justinian and Theodora were a partnership of contrasts, his vision, her pragmatism, his laws, her courage. Together, they lit an empire, their legacy glowing like a flame that refuses to fade. Let the marble halls of the imperial palace fade now, and imagine yourself standing before the vast dome of Hagia Sophia, its golden mosaics shimmering in the glow of countless candles. It is the 6th century, and this cathedral is the heart of Constantinople, a sacred space where the divine meets the mortal. The air is heavy with incense, the chants of priests echoing through stone arches. Here, secret rituals unfold, their rhythms binding the Byzantine world to its faith. Settle into this quiet splendor, like the soft flicker of a flame in a darkened sanctuary, and let the mystery of this place guide you gently. Picture Hagia Sophia at dawn, its massive bronze doors creaking open to admit the faithful. The air inside is cool, carrying the scent of myrrh and beeswax, the walls alive with the hum of murmured prayers. The dome, soaring above, seems to float, its windows piercing the morning light into beams that dance across marble floors. You might imagine yourself standing in the nave, a simple observer, your eyes tracing the glitter of gold mosaics, Christ, angels, emperors, each figure glowing as if lit from within. The candles, crafted by artisans like the ones you met, burn in rows, their flame steady, their light a bridge to the divine. Hagia Sophia was more than a church. It was the center of Byzantine worship, its rituals a blend of spectacle and secrecy. The divine liturgy, the core of Orthodox worship, unfolded daily, its cadence slow and deliberate. Priests in robes of silk and gold moved through the sanctuary, their voices rising in Greek chants that filled the vast space. The air was thick with incense, swung from silver censers, its smoke curling upward like a prayer. You can picture the congregation, nobles in fine tunics, merchants, even laborers, standing for hours, their heads bowed, their hearts lifted by the rhythm of the service. But behind the public rites lay hidden ceremonies, known only to the clergy and the elite. The preparation of the Eucharist was a sacred act, performed in the sanctuary's apse, shielded by an iconostasis, a screen adorned with holy images. Priests mixed bread and wine, their movements precise, their prayers whispered to avoid profane ears. The bread, baked in monastic ovens, was stamped with sacred seals. The wine, poured from silver chalices, symbolized divine grace. You might envision a priest, his hands steady despite the weight of his task, the candlelight casting shadows as he worked in silence. Other rituals were tied to the empire's fate. During crises, plagues, invasions, or riots, processions wound through Hagia Sophia, icons of the Virgin carried aloft, their frames gleaming with jewels. The faithful believed these images held power, their presence a shield against calamity. You can imagine the soft tread of feet, the low hum of hymns, as the procession moved through clouds of incense, the cathedral's walls amplifying each note. In times of victory, emperors offered thanks here, kneeling before the altar, their crowns glinting in the candlelight, their prayers a plea for divine favor. The cathedral's architecture itself was part of the ritual. Its dome, a symbol of heaven, was designed to awe, its vastness humbling all who entered. The light, filtered through alabaster windows, shifted with the sun, bathing mosaics in a glow that seemed alive. Artisans maintained this splendor, stone cleaners, lamplighters, wax sweepers, each labor a quiet act of devotion. The candles, burning day and night, were tended carefully, their wicks trimmed to ensure a steady flame. The scent of beeswax, sweeter than the tallow of humbler homes, filled the air, a reminder of the wealth poured into this sacred space. Yet even here, the human toll was present. The rituals demanded endurance. Priests stood for hours, their voices hoarse from chanting. Acolytes scurried to replenish candles, their hands blistered from wax. During the plague, the cathedral remained open, its doors a refuge for the desperate. Though some fell ill within its walls, their prayers unanswered. The clergy, bound by duty, continued their rites, their faces calm despite the city's suffering. You might picture a priest pausing to light a candle, his breath steady, the act a small defiance against the shadow of loss. Hagia Sophia's rituals were a tapestry of faith and power, weaving the empire's hopes into its stones. Their secrecy lent them weight, their beauty a balm to a city tested by time. As you linger in this sacred space, imagine the glow of candles, the chant of voices, the weight of centuries held in a single moment of light. Let the sacred glow of Hagia Sophia's candles dim now, and imagine yourself stepping into a grand villa in Constantinople, its courtyards fragrant with jasmine and its walls adorned with silk tapestries. It is the 6th century, and you are among the Byzantine nobility, men and women whose lives are woven with privilege, duty, and the delicate dance of power. Their world, lit by the candles crafted in humble workshops, is one of refinement and strategy, a stark contrast to the toil of the city's laborers. Settle into the rhythm of their lives, like the soft rustle of silk in a quiet hall, and let it guide you gently toward rest. Picture a noble's morning in a spacious home, its floors mosaicked with scenes of myth, its air cool despite the city's heat. You rise from a bed draped with linen, the scent of rosewater lingering from a basin where you wash. Your tunic is of fine silk, dyed deep purple or blue, its threads imported from distant lands. A servant fastens a gold brooch at your shoulder, its weight a reminder of your status. Breakfast is laid out in a shaded courtyard, bread with honey, figs, and a goblet of watered wine. The table set with silver that gleams in the morning light. You eat slowly. The hum of the city, cartwheels, hawkers, distant bells, filtering through the walls. Your day is shaped by duty, not labor. As a noble, you might serve in the imperial court, advise the emperor, or manage estates that stretch across provinces. Mornings are spent in meetings, perhaps in the palace, where you navigate discussions of trade, war, or law. The air is heavy with the scent of parchment and ink, scribes scratching notes as you speak. You choose your words carefully, aware that every gesture is watched, every alliance fragile. You might picture yourself seated on a cushioned bench, your voice calm as you propose a tax reform, your eyes noting the nods or frowns of your peers. Afternoon brings leisure, a luxury the candle maker could only dream of. You retire to your villa, where a game of chess, imported from Persia, awaits. The board is inlaid with ivory, the pieces carved with care. You play against a friend, a fellow noble, the clack of pieces blending with the trickle of a fountain. The conversation drifts to philosophy or gossip, the emperor's latest decree, a rival's misstep. The air is warm, scented with lavender from the garden, and servants move silently, offering plates of almonds or cooled wine. You might linger here, the game a quiet exercise in strategy, mirroring the larger game of courtly life. Evenings are for diplomacy, often in the form of banquets. You host or attend, your villa's dining hall lit by chandeliers of candles. Their beeswax glows softer than the tallow of the streets. Guests, senators, bishops, foreign envoys, recline on couches, their robes shimmering as they share stories of Rome or tales of distant wars. The table is laden with roasted peacock, stuffed dates, and bread spiced with saffron, the air rich with aromas that mask the city's grime. Musicians play lyres, their notes soft, while you steer conversations toward alliances or trade, your smile a mask for your calculations. Yet the noble's life is not without its shadows. The plague that swept Constantinople touched even these halls, claiming kin or servants, leaving empty seats at the table. Political intrigue was a constant threat. Rival nobles schemed, and a misstep could mean exile or worse. The Nika riots showed how quickly the city's favor could turn, the roar of the mob a reminder of the fragility of power. You might imagine a noble pausing by a window, gazing at the city's domes, the weight of responsibility settling like dust. The nobility's world was one of contrast to the candle makers. Where the artisan toiled in filth, you moved through elegance. Where their hands bore burns, yours held scrolls or chess pieces. Yet both were bound to Constantinople, their lives threads in the empire's tapestry. Your role was to uphold its glory, to balance faith and ambition, to light the way for a civilization that stood between worlds. As evening falls, you retire to your chamber, the city's hum fading, the candle by your bedside casting a final, steady glow. As the noble's villa fades into the night, let your mind drift over the Constantinople we've explored, from the candle maker, whose hand shaped light from tallow and toil, to Justinian and Theodora, whose partnership forged an empire through fire and plague, from the sacred rituals of Hagia Sophia, where chants and candles wove a divine tapestry, to the nobles, whose silken lives balanced power and peril. The Byzantine world was a city of contrasts, filth and gold, faith and ambition, light and shadow, its rhythm pulsing through every street and soul. Now, imagine yourself far from those bustling alleys and candlelit halls, resting in the quiet of the present. The struggles of Constantinople are distant, their triumphs and losses softened by time. Let the steady pulse of their story ease you, like the flicker of a flame in a darkened room, toward sleep. The city that bridged worlds stands silent now, but its echoes remind us of those who lived its light. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the world fade, leaving only the comfort of rest. Picture yourself in a quiet moment, the world around you softening as the evening settles. Tonight, we're stepping into the stone-walled cloisters of a medieval convent, where silence and devotion shape a world apart. This is a journey through the lives of nuns, a visionary mystic, the secrets of ancient manuscripts, and the powerful women who ruled from behind convent walls. Let the rhythm of their lives, steady and unhurried, guide you gently, like the toll of a distant bell, toward a place of calm and rest. We begin in a chilly convent, where the air carries the scent of wax and wool, and the life of a medieval nun unfolds in a delicate balance of duty and endurance. Imagine yourself in a stone courtyard, surrounded by the high walls of a convent in 12th century Europe. The air is cool, tinged with the scent of damp earth and burning tallow, from candles flickering in the chapel. It is dawn, and the bell tolls softly, calling you to prayer. You are a nun, bound by vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, your life dedicated to God. But the convent is not a haven of peace. It is a world of strict rules, endless tasks, and a constant struggle to balance devotion with survival. The rhythm of your days is relentless, each moment shaped by the needs of the community and the weight of your vows. Your morning begins with matins, the first of 7 daily prayers. You rise from a simple pallet, the straw mattress thin beneath a coarse wool blanket. The dormitory is cold, the stone floor chilling your bare feet as you pull on a plain habit, its black or brown wool heavy, but offering little warmth. The chapel is dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of incense and wax, as you join your sisters in chanting psalms. Your voice blends with theirs, a low hum that echoes off the walls, but silence is the rule outside these moments. The vow of silence, meant to foster contemplation, feels like a weight, broken only by prayer or necessity. The convent's work is unending. After prayer, you move to the scriptorium, where you copy manuscripts by candlelight, your fingers stiff from the chill. The quill scratches against parchment, the ink smelling faintly of iron and oak gall. Precision is demanded. Errors mean hours of scraping and rewriting. Some days, you sew or embroider vestments, your needle pricking calloused fingers as you stitch gold thread into linen. Others, you toil in the garden, digging in soil damp with morning dew, planting herbs or vegetables to feed the convent. The labor is shared, but it is grueling, your back aching as you carry water from the well or knead dough in the kitchen. Food is simple, a reflection of your vow of poverty. Meals are taken in silence, often just bread, porridge, or a thin vegetable stew, flavored with herbs from the garden. Meat is rare, reserved for feast days, or the sick. You eat in the refectory, its long table worn smooth, while a sister reads scripture aloud, her voice a steady drone. Hunger is a constant companion, especially in lean years when harvests fail. The convent's walls offer no escape from the famines that touch the world outside, and you learn to savor the warmth of a single bowl, its steam of fleeting comfort. Discipline governs every hour. The rule, whether Benedictine or Augustinian, dictates your life, from the hours of prayer to the tasks you perform. The abbess, a stern but fair figure, enforces obedience, her gaze sharp as she inspects your work. Minor infractions, like whispering during silence or spilling ink, bring penances, extra prayers, fasting, or scrubbing the chapel floor. More serious breaches could mean confinement to a cell, though such punishments are rare, the community valuing unity over cruelty. You learn to move carefully, your steps measured, your thoughts turned inward to avoid missteps. The convent is not untouched by the world's hardships. Disease creeps through the walls, carried by visitors or new novices. Fevers or coughs spread in the close quarters, and the infirmary, with its scent of medicinal herbs, is a frequent refuge. Some sisters fall, their lives fading quietly, their absence marked by a simple prayer. The threat of raids or banditry looms in turbulent times, though the convent's walls and reputation often offer protection. Still, you feel the weight of the world beyond, its struggles echoing in the prayers you offer for the souls of the living and the dead. Yet there are moments of quiet beauty. In the evening, as Vespers fills the chapel with psalm, the candlelight casts a warm glow, softening the stone. You might pause in the cloister, the scent of lavender from the garden mingling with the wax, and feel a fleeting sense of purpose. Your life, though far from peaceful, is part of a greater rhythm, a devotion that binds you to your sisters and to something beyond the walls. The convent is a world of contrasts, silence and labor, faith and endurance, a constant struggle that shapes each day. Let the cold stone cloisters of the convent fade gently now, and imagine yourself in a lush valley along the Rhine, where a small monastery hums with quiet purpose. It is the 12th century, and within these walls lives Hildegard of Bingen, a woman whose visions, music, and intellect illuminated the medieval world. Her life is a tapestry of faith, creativity, and influence, woven through the constraints of her vows. Settle into the rhythm of her days, like the soft notes of a chant drifting through the air, and let her story guide you toward calm. Picture Hildegard as a young girl, the 10th child of a noble family in Bermersheim, Germany. Born in 1098, she was delicate, often ill, her childhood marked by visions, flashes of light and images she could not explain. At 15, her family offered her to God, placing her in the care of Jutta, an anchoress at the monastery of Disibodenberg. You can imagine her entering the cloister, her steps hesitant, the heavy wooden door closing behind her. The world she left was one of fields and castles. The one she entered was of silence and prayer, its air thick with the scent of parchment and incense. Life as a nun shaped Hildegard, but her spirit was uncontainable. Enclosed with Jutta in a small cell, she learned to read, write, and sing the psalms. Her voice clear despite her frailty. The enclosure was cramped, its stone walls cool to the touch, lit only by candles and a narrow window. Yet her mind roamed free, her visions growing vivid, scenes of divine light, of creation's order, that she later described as the shadow of the living light. You might picture her, a young woman in a coarse habit, scribbling notes by candlelight, her quill scratching as she tried to capture what she saw. By her 40s, Hildegard's role had shifted. Jutta's death made her magistra, leader of the convent's women. Her visions, once private, became her calling. With the church's approval, she began writing Civius, a record of her divine insights, filled with images of the cosmos and humanity's place within it. Her scriptorium was a hive of activity, nuns copying her words onto parchment, the air heavy with the scent of ink and wax. She worked tirelessly, her hands stained, her eyes strained, yet her resolve unshaken. Her writings were not just spiritual. They tackled theology, morality, and the natural world, blending faith with a keen observer's eye. Hildegard's talents extended beyond the page. She composed music, haunting chants that filled the chapel, their notes rising like smoke. You can imagine her leading her nuns in song, their voices blending in the candlelit nave, the melodies simple yet profound, a bridge to the divine. She also wrote on medicine and nature, her Physica describing herbs and their uses, drawn from the convent's garden where she walked, the scent of lavender and sage clinging to her habit. Her intellect drew attention. Abbots, bishops, even emperors sought her counsel, her letters carried by messengers across Europe. Yet her life was not without struggle. Her visions brought pain, migraines that left her bedridden, her body trembling as light flooded her mind. The church, wary of female authority, scrutinized her work, though she won their trust through persistence and piety. She clashed with her monastery's abbot, seeking independence for her nuns. In her 50s, she founded her own convent at Rupertsberg, its stone walls rising through her will and noble connections. You might envision her overseeing its construction, her voice calm as she directed workers, the clink of chisels blending with the river's murmur. Hildegard's influence was vast, but her days remained rooted in the convent's rhythm. Prayers at dawn, labor in the scriptorium, vespers at dusk. She ate sparingly, like her sisters, her meals of barley porridge or stew shared in silence. The world beyond her walls was turbulent, crusades, famines, schisms, but she faced it with a quiet strength, her letters urging peace and reform. By her death in 1179, at 81, she was a legend, her legacy enduring in her words, music, and the nuns she inspired. Hildegard's life was a delicate balance, visionary and nun, scholar and mystic, her voice rising above the cloister's silence. As you linger in her world, imagine the glow of her candles, the echo of her chants, and the strength of a woman who shaped an era from within its shadows. Let the quiet rhythm of Hildegard's convent fade gently now, and imagine yourself in a dimly lit scriptorium, where the air is thick with the scent of ink and parchment. It is the 12th century, and you are surrounded by monks and nuns bent over wooden desks, their quills scratching softly as they craft illuminated manuscripts. These books, glowing with color and secrets, are more than sacred texts. They are windows into the medieval mind, filled with hidden messages and quiet humor. Settle into this world of careful strokes and whispered creativity, like the soft flicker of a candle on vellum, and let it guide you toward calm. Picture the scriptorium, its stone walls cool and bare, save for shelves lined with pots of pigment, red from madder root, blue from crushed lapis, gold leaf that catches the light. The room hums with focus, the only sounds the scratch of quills, the rustle of parchment, and the occasional creak of a stool. You might imagine yourself standing at a scribe's shoulder, watching as they shape letters with precision, each curve a prayer, each page a labor of days or weeks. The air carries the faint tang of ogall ink, blending with the wax of candles that burn to keep the work alive past dusk. Illuminated manuscripts were treasures, created primarily in monasteries and convents for religious use. Bibles, psalters, books of hours. Their pages held the word of God, but also the hands of their makers. Scribes, often nuns like those in Hildegard's care, copied texts in Latin, their script neat and deliberate. Illuminators added life, vibrant initials adorned with vines, saints painted in robes of crimson and azure, their halos gleaming with gold. You can envision a nun dipping her brush in pigment, her fingers steady as she traces a dragon curling around a letter, its scales a playful flourish in a sacred text. But beneath the beauty lay hidden messages. In the margins, where the sacred met the mundane, scribes left traces of their world. Marginalia, doodles, notes, even jokes, filled the edges of pages. A monk might sketch a cat chasing a mouse, its claws a playful echo of the hunt. A nun could draw a grotesque creature, half man, half beast, a silent commentary on human folly. These images were not mere whimsy. They were outlets for minds bound by silence and discipline. You might picture a scribe, her face calm but her eyes bright, adding a tiny knight jousting with a snail, a medieval jest at the slowness of life. Some messages were bolder. Scribes slipped complaints into their work, Latin notes grumbling about cold hands or a dull quill. Others hid critiques of the church or nobility, veiled in symbols. A monkey in a bishop's robe might mock corruption. A fox preaching to geese could hint at hypocrisy. These were secrets shared among the literate few, safe within the convent's walls. You can imagine the quiet thrill of a nun adding a sly doodle, her quill moving quickly before the abbess passed by, the candlelight casting shadows that hid her smile. The creation of these manuscripts was a labor of endurance. Parchment, made from calf or sheepskin, was scraped and stretched, its surface smooth, but its preparation long, the air heavy with the scent of treated hides. Pigments were costly. Lapis came from distant Afghanistan, gold from mines guarded by lords. Nuns ground colors by hand, their fingers stained, their wrists aching. Errors meant hours of scraping or starting anew. Yet the work was sacred, each page an offering. The rhythm of the scriptorium was steady, copy, paint, bind, its silence broken only by the soft chant of prayers or the clink of an inkpot. The manuscripts also held mysteries. Some symbols, spirals, knots, or fantastical beasts defy explanation, their meanings lost to time. Were they coded messages, spiritual allegories, or simply art? Scholars today pore over these pages, much as you might imagine a nun doing centuries ago, her eyes tracing a griffin's wing, wondering at its purpose. The manuscripts traveled beyond convents, carried to courts or cathedrals, their secrets read by kings or hidden in dusty archives. Some were lost to fire or war, their stories fading like a candle snuffed out. As you linger in the scriptorium, imagine the glow of a finished page, its colors vibrant against the vellum, its margins whispering of lives lived in quiet rebellion. These manuscripts were more than books. They were a canvas for the medieval soul, their hidden messages a soft echo of creativity in a world of devotion. Let the quiet scriptorium, with its flickering candles and whispering parchment, fade gently now. Imagine yourself stepping into the grand hall of a wealthy convent, its stone walls hung with tapestries, the air soft with the scent of beeswax and lavender. It is the 12th century, and you are in the presence of an abbess, a noble-born woman whose authority rivals that of lords and bishops. These women wield power from behind convent walls, shaping politics and faith with a steady hand. Settle into the rhythm of their lives, like the gentle toll of a bell across the fields, and let it guide you toward rest. Picture the convent, its cloisters grander than those of humbler sisters, its chapel adorned with stained glass that scatters light like jewels. The abbess, dressed in a fine wool habit, her veil edged with subtle embroidery, moves with purpose. Her quarters are modest but spacious, a wooden desk piled with parchment letters, a silver cross gleaming in the candlelight. You might imagine standing in her shadow, watching as she seals a missive with wax, the scent of it mingling with the herbs strewn on the floor. Her role is not just spiritual. She is a lord in her own right, ruling lands, managing wealth, and advising kings. Abbesses were often noble women, their entry to the convent a blend of piety and strategy. Families placed daughters in these roles to secure alliances or preserve estates, the convent a bastion of influence. As abbess, she oversaw vast holdings, fields, villages, even mills, worked by tenants whose rents filled the convent's coffers. Her mornings began with prayer, her voice leading the chants in the chapel, but her days turned to governance. You can envision her in a chapter house, her nuns seated in a circle, as she assigns tasks, overseeing harvests, settling disputes, or welcoming noble guests. Her decisions carried weight, her word law within the convent's walls. Her influence extended far beyond. Abbesses corresponded with bishops, kings, and even popes, their letters carried by couriers across muddy roads. These missives, written in elegant Latin, urged peace, sought favors, or defended the convent's rights. You might picture her dictating to a scribe, her voice calm but firm, the scratch of the quill a steady rhythm. Some, like the abbesses of Fontevraud or Whitby, hosted councils where nobles and clergy debated reform or war. Others, like Hildegard, advised emperors. Their counsel sought for its blend of faith and wisdom. The air in her study was heavy with the scent of ink and sealing wax, each letter a thread in the tapestry of power. Yet this power came with burdens. The abbess navigated a world of intrigue, balancing the church's demands with the ambitions of noble families. A misstep could spark scandal, a nun's lapse in virtue, a mismanaged estate, drawing the wrath of bishops or rivals. The convent was a refuge, but also a stage, where every act was watched. During turbulent times, like the investiture controversy, abbesses took sides, their convents fortresses of loyalty or defiance. You can imagine the tension of a council, the abbess seated in a carved chair, her face composed as she weighs words that could shift alliances. Life as an abbess was not without luxury. Her meals, though simple by noble standards, were richer than those of her nuns. Wine instead of water, meat on feast days, served in a private dining room. Her chambers held comforts, a fur-lined cloak for winter, a psalter with illuminated pages. Yet she shared the convent's hardships. Famine thinned the stores, and disease crept through the walls, sparing neither noble nor novice. The plague or fever could empty her ranks, leaving her to pray for souls lost too soon. Her nights often ended late, her candle burning as she reviewed accounts or penned letters. The weight of leadership never fully lifted. The abbess's world was a contrast to the nun's toil in the garden or scriptorium. Where the sister labored with her hands, the abbess worked with her mind, her authority a bridge between the cloister and the courts. Yet both were bound by the same vows, their lives woven into the rhythm of faith. As evening falls, imagine the abbess in her chapel, the candlelight softening her face, her prayers a quiet offering for her flock and the world beyond. As the abbess's hall fades into the night, let your mind drift over the medieval world we've explored. From the nun, whose days were a constant struggle of silence and labor, to Hildegard of Bingen, whose visions lit the cloister with music and wisdom. From the illuminated manuscripts, their margins whispering secrets, to the abysses, whose power shaped lands and kings. The convent was a world of contrasts, devotion and duty, silence and influence, faith and toil, its rhythm echoing through stone walls and sacred pages. Now, picture yourself far from those chilly cloisters and candlelit halls, resting in the quiet of the present. The struggles of medieval nuns are distant, their triumphs and burdens softened by time. Let the steady pulse of their story ease you, like the toll of a bell fading into dusk, toward sleep. The convent's walls stand silent now, but their echoes remind us of those who lived its vows. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the world fade, leaving only the comfort of rest. Imagine yourself settling into the quiet of the evening, the world around you softening as the day fades. Tonight, we're stepping into the smoky, soot-streaked streets of Victorian Britain, where the clatter of industry and the glow of gaslights paint a world of stark contrasts. This is a journey through the lives of chimney sweeps, a queen's private struggles, the whispers of the supernatural, and the opulent parlors of the elite. Let the rhythm of their lives, steady and unhurried, guide you gently, like the flicker of a hearth fire, toward a place of calm and rest. We begin in the grimy alleys of London, where the air is thick with coal dust, and the life of a chimney sweep is a constant struggle against soot and survival. Picture yourself in a narrow London street, 1860, where dawn barely pierces the fog. The air is heavy with the acrid scent of coal smoke, mingling with the damp chill of morning. You are a chimney sweep, a boy of perhaps 7 or 8, your frame small enough to fit the tight flues of the city's chimneys. Your clothes are patched, your face smudged with soot, and your hands, already calloused, clutch a brush and scraper. Life as a sweep is not just hard. It is a daily ordeal, a world where every breath is a battle and every climb a risk. Your day begins before sunrise, roused by your master, a sweep who took you on as an apprentice, perhaps an orphan sold by a workhouse or a desperate family. The room you sleep in is a cold attic, its floor strewn with straw, the air thick with the smell of ash that clings to everything. Breakfast is meager, a crust of bread, perhaps a sip of weak tea, eaten quickly before you're led to the day's first house. The streets are alive with the clatter of carts and the cries of vendors, but you keep your head down, your bare feet numb on the cobblestones. Chimney sweeping is grueling work. You arrive at a grand townhouse, its facade hiding the labyrinth of flues within. Your master hands you a brush, its bristles worn, and points to the fireplace. You crawl inside, the brick rough against your knees, the darkness swallowing you as you climb. The flue is tight, sometimes only 9 inches wide, forcing you to twist and contort, your elbows and knees scraping against soot-caked walls. The air is stifling, thick with dust that coats your lungs. Each breath a gritty struggle. You push upward, your brush scraping away layers of soot that fall like black snow, stinging your eyes and clogging your throat. The dangers are ever present. A narrow flue could trap you, your body wedged until your master hauls you out, or doesn't. Falls are common, the bricks slick with creosote, leaving bruises or broken bones. Fires, lit by careless householders, could flare below, the heat searing your legs before you escape. The soot itself is a silent enemy, lodging in your lungs, leading to coughs that rack your small frame. Some boys develop chimney sweeps cancer, a slow affliction born of constant exposure, though you know it only as a creeping weakness that claims your mates. Your master drives you hard. A good day means cleaning a dozen chimneys, each climb leaving you filthier, your skin raw beneath the soot. Payment is scant, a few pennies that go to your master, leaving you with nothing but a meal of bread and dripping. The work is seasonal. Winter brings more fires, more chimneys to clean, but the cold makes it worse, your fingers numb as you climb, your breath visible in the icy flues. Rest is rare. Even at day's end, you might scrub brushes or haul soot sacks, the weight heavy on your shoulders. The city offers no kindness. Passers-by avert their eyes, seeing only a climbing boy. Your blackened face a mark of your trade. Orphans like you are common, replaceable. Your life valued less than the chimneys you clean. Yet there are moments of fleeting warmth, huddled with other sweeps by a tavern fire, sharing a stolen apple, your laughter soft in the smoky air. You learn to find comfort in the rhythm of your work, the scrape of your brush a steady beat against the silence of the flues. Life as a chimney sweep is a constant struggle, its horrors woven into the fabric of Victorian progress. The soot that blackens your hands fuels the hearths of London's homes, a grim necessity in a city of industry and ambition. As you crawl through the dark, the world above continues, its lights burning bright while you toil in shadow. Let the soot-filled flues of London's chimneys fade gently now, and imagine yourself stepping into the grand corridors of Buckingham Palace, where the air carries the scent of polished wood and roses. It is the mid-19th century, and Queen Victoria reigns over an empire that spans the globe. Her life, both public and private, is a delicate balance of duty, grief, and quiet strength, shaping a nation while navigating personal loss. Settle into the rhythm of her days, like the soft ticking of a mantel clock, and let her story guide you toward calm. Picture Victoria, a young woman of barely 18, ascending the throne in 1837. Small in stature, her presence is commanding, her eyes sharp with determination. You might imagine her in the palace's throne room, her coronation robes heavy with velvet and ermine, the crown a weight on her brow. Her early years as queen were marked by inexperience, yet she learned quickly, guided by advisors like Lord Melbourne. Her journals, written in neat script by candlelight, reveal a woman both curious and resolute. Her days filled with state papers and audiences, the air heavy with the scent of ink and wax seals. Her marriage to Prince Albert in 1840 was a turning point, a partnership of love and intellect. You can envision them in Windsor Castle, walking through gardens fragrant with lavender, discussing reforms or art. Albert's influence was profound. He organized the Great Exhibition of 1851, its Crystal Palace, a gleaming showcase of industry, the hum of machinery echoing through its halls. Victoria, proud but reserved, stood by his side, her public role as queen tempered by her private joy as a wife. Their home was filled with the laughter of their 9 children. Though motherhood brought its own burdens, her pregnancies a constant demand on her time and strength. Albert's death in 1861, at just 42, shattered her world. You might picture Victoria in her private chambers, dressed in black, the air heavy with the scent of morning lavender. She withdrew from public life, her grief a shadow that lingered for decades. The nation called her the Widow of Windsor, her black gowns a symbol of loss. Yet she continued to rule, her pen moving across letters and decrees late into the night. Her private world was one of solitude, her rooms filled with mementos, Albert's watch, his letters, each a quiet reminder of what was gone. Publicly, Victoria became the emblem of an empire at its peak. Her reign saw Britain's power grow, from India's jewel to Africa's colonies. She embraced her role as empress, her image on coins and stamps, her name on streets and railways. Yet she faced challenges, Irish famines, industrial unrest, the Crimean War's toll. You can imagine her reading reports by gaslight, her face composed as she weighed decisions that shaped millions of lives. Her compassion showed in small acts. She championed laws to protect chimney sweeps, moved by their plight, her voice quiet but firm in counsel. Victoria's private world was not without warmth. Her children, though often distant, filled her life with letters and visits. Her friendship with John Brown, a Scottish servant, brought gossip but also comfort, his blunt honesty a contrast to courtly flattery. You might envision her walking Balmoral's grounds, the air crisp with pine, Brown at her side, the weight of the crown momentarily lifted. Her later years saw her embrace new roles, grandmother, patron of science, symbol of stability in a changing world. Her reign, spanning 63 years, was a bridge between tradition and modernity. By her death in 1901, Britain was transformed. Railways crisscrossed the land, factories hummed, and the empire stretched wide. Victoria's life was a constant balance, her public duties a contrast to her private grief, her strength a quiet force. As you linger in her world, imagine the glow of her candles, the rustle of her morning dress, and the steady rhythm of a queen who carried an era. Let the grand halls of Buckingham Palace fade gently now, and imagine yourself in a dimly lit parlor in Victorian London, where the air is thick with the scent of candle wax and anticipation. It is the late 19th century, and the city is gripped by a fascination with spiritualism, a quest to pierce the veil between the living and the dead. In drawing rooms and back rooms alike, Victorians gather for seances, seeking whispers from the beyond. Settle into the rhythm of these quiet gatherings, like the soft creak of a table in a darkened room, and let their mystery guide you toward calm. Picture a typical seance in a middle-class home. The curtains drawn, the gas lights turned low. The room is warm, the air heavy with the scent of lavender and polished wood. A round table at its center draped in velvet. You might imagine yourself seated among the participants, merchants, widows, even skeptics, your hands resting lightly on the table, fingertips touching those of your neighbors. A medium, often a woman in a dark dress, her voice soft and measured, leads the session. The candles flicker, casting shadows that dance on the walls, as she calls to spirits, her words a gentle chant in the stillness. Spiritualism took root in the 1840s, sparked by tales from America of the Fox sisters, who claimed to communicate with spirits through raps and knocks. In Britain, the movement grew, fueled by a society wrestling with science and faith. The Victorian era was one of progress, railways, telegraphs, Darwin's theories, but also of loss, with high mortality from disease and war. You can envision families, their hearts heavy with grief, turning to seances to hear from loved ones lost too soon. The promise of contact, even a faint whisper, was a comfort in a world where death was ever present. The rituals of the seance were theatrical, yet intimate. Mediums claimed to channel spirits, their voices shifting to mimic the dead, their hands trembling as if guided. Tables tilted, knocks echoed, and sometimes objects, a bell, a tambourine, seemed to move on their own. You might picture the soft tap of a table leg, the group's collective breath held, as the medium speaks of a spirit's presence. Some seances produced ectoplasm, a gauzy substance said to be spirit-made, though skeptics later exposed it as cheesecloth or soap. The air was charged, not with fear, but with hope, the room a cocoon of shared longing. Spiritualism crossed all classes. In humble homes, working families gathered around kitchen tables, their candles cheap tallow, their mediums local women with a knack for performance. In grander parlors, like those of Mayfair, aristocrats hosted seances, their tables adorned with silver and crystal. Their mediums celebrated figures like Daniel Dunlop's home, who levitated objects, or so he claimed. Even Queen Victoria, in her grief for Albert, was said to have attended seances, though discreetly, her curiosity cloaked in mourning black. You can imagine her, seated in a private room, the air soft with the scent of roses, listening for a sign from her beloved. Yet the movement had its shadows. Fraud was common. Mediums rigged tables with hidden levers, produced spirit voices through ventriloquism. Exposés filled newspapers, but belief persisted, driven by the human need for connection. The church condemned spiritualism as heresy, yet some clergy attended, drawn by the promise of divine insight. Science, too, was divided. Men like William Crookes studied mediums, their instruments measuring knocks and lights, while others scoffed. You might envision a skeptic at a seance, his notebook open, his pen scratching as he watches for trickery, the candlelight steady despite the room's tension. The obsession with spiritualism was a reflection of Victorian duality, faith and doubt, science and mystery. Seances were spaces of quiet wonder, where the living sought the dead, their hopes flickering like the candles that lit the room. As you linger in this world, imagine the soft rap of a table, the murmur of voices, and the fleeting sense that the veil might lift, if only for a moment. Let the dimly lit seance parlor fade gently now, and imagine yourself stepping into a grand Mayfair mansion, where the air is rich with the scent of polished mahogany and hothouse flowers. It is the late 19th century, and you are among London's aristocrats, whose lives of opulence and ritual stand in stark contrast to the soot-stained world of the chimney sweep. Their days are filled with carriages, parlors, and the delicate dance of social power. Settle into the rhythm of their lives, like the soft clink of crystal in a candlelit dining room, and let it guide you toward rest. Picture a nobleman's townhouse, its facade gleaming with white stone, its windows glowing with gaslight. You awaken in a four-poster bed, its velvet curtains drawn, the air warm with the scent of lavender from a porcelain bowl. Your valet or maid lays out your attire, silk stockings, a tailored coat, or a gown of taffeta for the ladies, its bustle shaped with care. Breakfast is served in a morning room, the table laden with silver dishes of kedgeree, toast, and marmalade, the tea steaming in delicate china. You might imagine sitting at the polished table, the rustle of a newspaper blending with the distant clatter of carriages outside. The aristocrat's day is a carefully choreographed routine. Mornings are for correspondence, your desk piled with invitations and letters, the air heavy with the scent of sealing wax and ink. You pen notes to MPs or hostesses, arranging alliances or social events, your words chosen with precision to maintain influence. By noon, you might ride in Hyde Park, your carriage rolling along Rotten Row, the air crisp with the scent of grass and horse leather. You nod to peers, your hat tipped just so. Each gesture part of the social game that defines your world. Afternoons bring calls, visits to other grand homes, where you sip tea in parlors adorned with gilt mirrors and silk wallpaper. The conversation is light but strategic. Gossip about court, politics, or marriages, the air fragrant with rose water and pastries. You might picture a lady in a drawing room, her fan fluttering, her smile masking calculations about a daughter's prospects. For men, clubs like White's or Brooks's offer refuge. Their leather chairs and cigar smoke a backdrop for debates on trade or empire. The rhythm of these visits is deliberate, a dance of status and obligation. Evenings are for grandeur. A dinner party in your mansion's dining room is a spectacle. 12 courses, from consommé to syllabub, served on silver by footmen in livery. The table glitters with crystal and candles. Their beeswax glows softer than the tallow of the poor. You host dukes, MPs, or foreign diplomats. The air alive with the clink of glasses and the murmur of French or Latin phrases, a nod to classical education. Music follows, perhaps a piano recital in the drawing room, the notes drifting through air scented with beeswax and perfume. Yet this opulence has its shadows. The wealth that fuels these lives comes from estates worked by tenants or colonial ventures, their hardships distant but real. Disease touches even Mayfair. Cholera or fever could claim a child, the nursery falling silent. Political pressures weigh heavy. Reform bills and Irish unrest spark debates that ripple through dinner parties. You might imagine a lord pausing by a window, gazing at gaslit streets, the weight of maintaining his family's name pressing like the fog outside. The aristocrat's life is a world apart from the chimney sweeps. Where the sweep crawls through soot, you glide through ballrooms. Where their hands are blackened, yours hold ivory fans or gold-tipped canes. Yet both are bound to London, their lives threads in the city's tapestry. As night falls, you retire to your chambers, the fire low, the candle by your bedside casting a final glow, the city's hum fading into quiet. As the Mayfair mansion's candlelight dims, let your mind drift over the Victorian world we've explored, from the chimney sweep, whose every climb was a struggle through soot and shadow, to Queen Victoria, whose reign balanced grief and empire, from the seance parlors, where whispers sought the beyond, to the aristocrats, whose opulence masked the weight of power. Victorian London was a city of contrasts, grime and grandeur, loss and ambition, darkness and light, its rhythm pulsing through every street and soul. Now, imagine yourself far from those smoky alleys and gilded halls, resting in the quiet of the present. The struggles of Victorian Britain are distant, their triumphs and sorrows softened by time. Let the steady pulse of their story ease you, like the glow of a hearth fading into embers, toward sleep. The city that shaped an era stands silent now, but its echoes remind us of those who lived its contrasts. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the world fade, leaving only the comfort of rest. Imagine yourself settling into the quiet of the evening, the world around you softening as the day fades. Tonight, we're stepping into the misty hills and bustling towns of Edo, Japan, where the scent of rice fields and cherry blossoms mingles with the weight of duty and survival. This is a journey through the lives of peasants toiling under samurai rule, a tale of loyalty and loss, the fleeting pleasures of a hidden world, and the intricate lives of the elite. Let the rhythm of their lives, steady and unhurried, guide you gently, like the soft rustle of a kimono, toward a place of calm and rest. We begin in a humble village, where the air is thick with the scent of damp earth, and the life of a samurai peasant is a constant struggle under the shadow of the warrior class. Picture yourself in a small village in Japan, 17th century Edo period, where dawn breaks over rice paddies, the air cool and heavy with the scent of wet soil. You are a peasant, a farmer bound to the land, your life dictated by the samurai who rule under the shogun's command. Your home is a simple wooden hut, its straw roof leaking in the rain, the floor packed earth. Your hands, calloused from years of toil, grip a wooden hoe as you work the fields, your back bent under the weight of survival. Life as a peasant is not just hard. It is a relentless cycle of labor, taxes, and deference, a constant struggle under the samurai's watchful gaze. Your day begins before sunrise, the crow of a rooster pulling you from a thin futon. You dress in rough hemp clothing, its weave coarse against your skin, and eat a modest breakfast, rice porridge, perhaps a pickled plum, the taste sharp on your tongue. The village is quiet, save for the chirp of crickets and the distant clop of a samurai's horse. You head to the fields, where rice plants sway in neat rows, their green tips glistening with dew. Planting, weeding, harvesting. The work is endless, each season bringing its own demands. Spring means muddy fields, your feet sinking as you plant. Summer brings sweltering heat, your brow damp. Autumn demands quick hands to gather rice before rains ruin the crop. The samurai, your lords, enforce strict quotas. The Tokugawa shogunate's system ties you to the land, your village required to deliver a portion of its rice, often half or more, to the local daimyo. You measure each grain with care. The weight of the tax collectors gaze heavy as you fill woven baskets. Failure to meet quotas brings punishment, fines, confiscation, or worse, though the samurai prefer efficiency over cruelty. You learn to hide a few handfuls of rice, a small act of defiance buried under the floorboards, the scent of straw masking your secret. Life is precarious. Famine stalks the land when rains fail or pests swarm, leaving your family hungry, your meals thin to broth. Disease spreads through crowded villages, a cough or fever claiming neighbors in the night, their absence marked by quiet prayers. Bandits, though rare under the shogun's peace, are a threat, and you sleep with a sickle near, its blade dull but reassuring. The samurai offer protection but demand absolute loyalty. Every passing warrior expects a deep bow, your forehead nearly touching the ground, a reminder of your place. Your labor extends beyond the fields. You repair irrigation ditches, the water cold against your legs, or weave straw mats by lamplight, the air thick with dust. Women spin hemp, their fingers deft, while children gather firewood, their small hands scratched by branches. The village headman, a peasant like you but with authority, mediates disputes and collects taxes, his voice weary as he balances samurai demands with village needs. You attend festivals, rare moments of joy, where drums echo and rice wine flows, the air alive with the scent of grilled fish and cedar smoke. Yet even in these moments, the samurai's shadow looms. Their katana gleam at their sides, a symbol of power you can never touch. Your life is bound to the land, your freedom traded for the stability of the shogunate's rule. The rhythm of your days, plant, harvest, bow, becomes a kind of prayer, a steady beat against the weight of obligation. As you toil in the fields, the mountains rise around you, their peaks a quiet reminder of a world beyond, yet one you'll never reach. Let the rice fields and village huts fade gently now, and imagine yourself in a quiet castle town, where the air carries the scent of cedar and polished steel. It is the early 18th century, in the heart of the Edo period, and the story of the 47 Ronin unfolds, a tale of loyalty, quiet vengeance, and the rigid code that bound samurai and peasant alike. This is not a story of battle's clamor, but of deliberate steps and solemn duty, woven into the fabric of a disciplined world. Settle into the rhythm of their journey, like the soft tread of sandals on a stone path, and let it guide you toward calm, Picture the year 1701. In Edo, the shogun's capital. You stand in a bustling street, the air alive with the clatter of geta clogs and the murmur of merchants. The tale begins with Asano Naganori, a young daimyo from Akeo, a domain far from the capital. Asano, a man of honor but quick temper, is tasked with hosting envoys at Edo Castle, a duty overseen by Kira Yashinaka, a high-ranking official known for his arrogance. You might imagine Asano in his formal kimono, its silk rustling as he bows, the weight of protocol heavy in the incense-scented halls. Kira, expecting bribes Asano does not offer, taunts him, pushing the young lord's patience to its breaking point. The spark comes in a moment of lost control. In a corridor of the castle, Asano draws his sword, a forbidden act in the shogun's presence, and strikes at Kira, grazing him. The breach is unforgivable. The shogun, Tokugawa Tsuneyoshi, sentences Asano to seppuku, a ritual death to preserve honor. You can envision Asano in a quiet courtyard, his face composed, the air still as he kneels before a blade, his life ending in a moment of solemn dignity. His domain is confiscated, his samurai left masterless, ronin, cast adrift in a society where loyalty is everything. The ronin, led by Oishi Kuranasuke, Asano's loyal retainer, number 47. Oishi, a man of quiet resolve, gathers them in secret. Their meetings held in dim rooms lit by oil lamps, the air thick with the scent of tatami and resolve. They are no longer samurai, their status stripped, yet their duty to their lord remains. You might picture Oishi, his hair graying, his voice steady as he plans vengeance, knowing the cost. For 2 years they wait, scattering to avoid suspicion. Some become merchants, others laborers, their katana hidden, their lives a pretense to lull Kira into complacency. The plan unfolds with precision. On a snowy night in December 1702, the 47 gather outside Kira's mansion in Edo. The air is cold, the ground dusted white, the silence broken only by the soft crunch of their steps. They move as one, scaling walls, their swords drawn but used sparingly. Inside, they find Kira, cowering, his arrogance gone. The act is swift. Kira's life ends, his head taken as proof of their duty. You can imagine the ronin, their breath visible in the chill, their hands steady despite the weight of their choice, the snow falling softly as they complete their task. Their vengeance is not a triumph, but a tragedy. The ronin surrender to the shogun's justice, knowing the law forbids such acts. In 1703, they are sentenced to seppuku, their loyalty honored but their lives forfeit. You might envision them in a quiet temple, each man kneeling in turn, the air heavy with the scent of incense, their deaths a final act of fidelity. Their graves, at Sengakuji Temple, become a pilgrimage site, their story a legend whispered in Edo streets, a testament to the samurai code of Bushido. The tale of the 47 Ronin is one of quiet devotion, their actions a delicate balance between honor and law. Their loyalty bound them to a path that led to loss, yet their story endures, a soft echo in the heart of Japan's history. As you linger in this moment, imagine the snow falling on Edo, the silence of their resolve, and the weight of a duty fulfilled. Let the snowy streets of Edo and the solemn tale of the 47 Ronin fade gently now, and imagine yourself stepping into a lantern-lit alley, where the air carries the scent of sake and cherry blossoms. It is the late 17th century, and you are in the Yoshiwara, the pleasure quarter of Edo, the heart of Japan's floating world. This is a place of fleeting beauty, courtesans, kabuki actors, and secret entertainments, where the rules of the samurai's rigid society bend in the glow of the night. Settle into the rhythm of this hidden world, like the soft strum of a shamisen, and let its mystery guide you toward calm. Picture the Yoshiwara at dusk, its narrow streets lined with tea houses, their paper screens glowing with the light of oil lamps. The air is alive with the clink of cups, the laughter of patrons, and the faint melody of a koto drifting from an upper room. You might imagine yourself standing at the edge of the quarter, your sandals brushing the wooden walkway, watching as men, merchants, samurai, even peasants with coin, pass through the gates, their faces hidden by straw hats or masks to preserve their anonymity. The scent of grilled eel and incense mingles with the evening breeze, a fleeting escape from the world beyond. The floating world, or Yukio, was a realm of art and pleasure, named for its impermanence, like bubbles on a stream. It thrived in Edo's licensed quarters, where the shogunate confined entertainments to maintain order. The Yoshiwara was its heart, a walled district where courtesans, trained in poetry, dance, and wit, held court. You can envision a courtesan in a silk kimono, its patterns vibrant with cranes or peonies, her hair adorned with lacquered combs. Her room is small but elegant, its tatami mat soft underfoot, the air warm with the scent of sandalwood as she pours sake for a guest, her words as carefully chosen as a poem. Kabuki theaters, nearby, were another jewel of the floating world. Actors, all male, performed on stages lit by flickering torches, their faces painted with bold lines, their voices rising in dramatic tales of love or betrayal. You might picture a performance. The crowd hushed as an actor, dressed as a woman, glides across the stage, his fan fluttering like a butterfly. The air hums with the beat of drums, the audience caught in the spell of a story that mirrors their own fleeting joys. Women, banned from performing, watched from the shadows, their presence a quiet defiance of the shogun's rules. The floating world was not just for the elite. Peasants, like those toiling in the rice fields, saved coins for a night here, their visits a rare escape from labor. Merchants, grown wealthy in Edo's markets, mingled with samurai, their status blurred in the lantern light. Yet the quarter had its own hierarchy. Courtesans ranked by beauty and skill, their lives bound by contracts to brothel owners. Their elegance hid hardship. Many were sold into the Yoshiwara as girls, their freedom a distant dream. You can imagine a courtesan smiling for a client, her eyes masking weariness, the air heavy with the weight of her performance. The art of the floating world captured its essence. Woodblock prints, or ukiyo-e, depicted courtesans, actors, and scenes of fleeting beauty. Cherry blossoms falling, a moonlit river. Artists like Utamaro crafted these images, their studios filled with the scent of ink and wood shavings. You might envision a print, its colors vivid, a courtesan's kimono flowing like water, a silent tribute to a world that vanished with the dawn. These prints were sold in shops, their images a whisper of the Yoshiwara's allure, carried to homes across Edo. Yet shadows lingered. The Yoshiwara was a place of pleasure but also of risk. Disease spread in crowded tea houses, fire swept through wooden buildings, and debts trapped patrons and courtesans alike. The shogunate watched closely, their spies blending into the crowds, ensuring order in a place of controlled chaos. The floating world was a paradox, a sanctioned escape within a rigid society, its beauty as fleeting as the lanterns that lit its nights. As you linger in the Yoshiwara, imagine the glow of paper screens, the strum of music, and the fleeting joy of a world that existed only in the moment. The floating world was a dream, its mysteries woven into the heart of Edo, a soft echo of lives lived for beauty and escape. Let the lantern-lit alleys of the Yoshiwara fade gently now, and imagine yourself stepping through the towering gates of a daimyo's castle, where the air is cool with the scent of polished wood and cherry blossoms. It is the Edo period, 17th century, and you are in the world of Japan's feudal lords, the daimyo, whose lives of ritual and power contrast sharply with the peasant's toil. Their days unfold behind paper screens, governed by sword etiquette and intricate systems of control. Settle into the rhythm of their lives, like the soft rustle of a silk kimono, and let it guide you toward rest. Picture a castle, its stone walls rising from a moat, its tiled roofs curving against the sky. You enter a courtyard, the gravel crunching underfoot, the air carrying the faint scent of pine from gardens beyond. The daimyo's residence is a maze of tatami-lined rooms, their paper walls painted with cranes or mountains, the light filtering softly through shoji screens. You might imagine yourself standing in a grand hall, the floor smooth under your socks, as servants move silently, their steps a whisper against the wood. The daimyo, lord of this domain, sits on a raised platform, his katana at his side, his presence commanding despite his calm demeanor. The daimyo's day begins with ritual. At dawn, he rises from a futon laid on tatami, the air cool in his private chamber. He dresses in layered kimonos, their silk heavy with embroidery. the colors muted to reflect his rank. Breakfast is simple yet refined. Rice, miso soup, grilled fish, served on lacquer trays, the scent of soy and seaweed lingering. You can envision him eating in silence, attended by retainers who bow deeply, their movements precise. His morning is spent reviewing reports, taxes from villages, like those worked by peasants, or messages from the shogun in Edo, delivered by couriers whose sandals slapped the stone paths. His role is one of balance, ruler, warrior, administrator. By mid-morning, he meets with vassals in a council chamber, the air thick with the scent of ink, as they unroll scrolls detailing rice yields or castle repairs. The daimyo listens, his face composed, his decisions shaping the lives of thousands. He inspects his samurai, their armor gleaming, their loyalty sworn through generations. Sword etiquette governs every interaction, a blade placed just so, a bow at the precise angle, each gesture a reminder of the Bushido code. You might picture him observing a sword drill, the clash of practiced blades muted, the air sharp with discipline. Afternoon brings moments of refinement. The daimyo might stroll his garden, its raked gravel and koi ponds a study in serenity, the air soft with cherry blossom petals. He composes haiku, his brush gliding over paper, the ink's faint tang mingling with the scent of moss. Or he hosts a tea ceremony, the ritual slow and deliberate, the match's bitterness a counterpoint to the calm. Guests, other daimyo or envoys, join him, their conversation veiled, discussing alliances or the shogun's policies, the air warm with the scent of cedar smoke from a brazier. Evening is for feasting or theater. A banquet in the castle's great hall offers sushi, tempura, and sake, served on porcelain by retainers in crisp robes. The air hums with the clink of cups and the low strum of a shamisen, a nod to the floating world's pleasures. Or a no performance unfolds, its masked actors moving slowly on a wooden stage, their chants a haunting echo of ancient tales. You can imagine the daimyo watching, his fan folded, his mind weighing the loyalty of those around him, the candlelight casting shadows on the screens. Yet his life is not without strain. The shogunate's alternate attendance system requires him to spend half the year in Edo, leaving his family as hostages, a costly journey that drains his coffers. Rival daimyo scheme and peasant uprisings, born of heavy taxes, threaten his domain. Disease or fire could strike the castle, its wooden halls vulnerable. You might envision him standing on a balcony, gazing at his lands, the weight of rule pressing like the mountains beyond. The daimyo's world is a stark contrast to the peasants. Where the farmer toils in mud, the daimyo walks on tatami. Where the peasant bows, the daimyo commands. Yet both are bound to the shogunate's order, their lives threads in Japan's feudal tapestry. As night falls, the daimyo retires, his chamber lit by a single lantern, its glow a quiet reminder of the power and duty he carries. As the castle's lantern light dims, let your mind drift over the Edo Japan we've explored. From the peasant, whose every day was a struggle in the rice fields, to the 47 ronin, whose loyalty led to a solemn end. From the floating world, where beauty and pleasure bloomed in the night, to the daimyo, whose life of ritual masked the weight of rule. Edo Japan was a land of contrasts, duty and desire, toil and elegance, silence and song, its rhythm woven through every village and castle. Now, picture yourself far from those misty fields and paper-walled halls, resting in the quiet of the present. The struggles of Edo Japan are distant, their triumphs and burdens softened by time. Let the steady pulse of their story ease you, like the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, toward sleep. The world of samurai and peasants stands silent now, but its echoes remind us of those who lived its code. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the world fade, leaving only the comfort of rest.